Anu, the father of the Anunnaki. Along with En-lil and Ea Enki, Anu makes up the universal triad. He is called the father of the gods, but appears to be descended from older deities. The name Anu is seldom discovered in inscriptions prior to the time of Khammurabi, but the notices that occur seem to have already fixed his position as ruler of the sky. His cult was specially associated with the city of Erech. It is probable that in the earlier days he had been the original Sumerian sky father, and the name Anu is merely a form for the Sumerian word, heaven. This idea is assisted by the manner in which his name is originally written in the inscriptions, as the symbol signifying it is usually the same as that employed for heaven. It is plain, therefore, that Anu was once regarded as the expanse of heaven itself, as are the sky fathers of numerous primitive peoples. Several writers who deal with Anu appear to be of the opinion that the god of the heavens is an abstraction, which is something that exists only as an idea. Popular fancy says Jastrow. There's no messing about with Jastrow, is there? I do like him. Jastrow goes on to say, it deals with realities and personified powers, whose workings are seen and felt. It would, therefore, have evolved with the idea that there was a power to be identified with the heavens as a whole, of which the azure sky is a symbol, as it would personify the earth as a whole, or the bodies of waters as a whole. It is not necessary to state the implications to recognize that the conception of a triad of gods, corresponding to the three theoretical divisions of the universe, is a bit of learned speculation. It smacks of the school, Jastrow says. The school would be the Hermetic arts, wouldn't it? Well said, Jastrow. He continues to say, the conception of a god of heaven fits in, moreover, with the comparatively advanced period, when the seats of the gods were placed in the skies, and the gods were identified with the stars. A merely superficial acquaintance with the nature of animism and the sky. So it would be after the Tiawath and Marduk legend, which was written around 1200 BC, and if it was taken from an earlier legend, it would be no earlier than 3000 BC. 200 years later, 1000 BC, the empires take control of the narrative. Fits like a glove. The myth of primitive and barbarian peoples would lead us to the conclusion that the opposite is the case. In Egyptian, Polynesian, and North American Indian myth, the sky itself is directly personalized. Egyptian mythological illustration depicts the sky in a female form, for in Egyptian myth, the sky is the mother, and the earth the father of everything. Lang has shown that the sky father is frequently personalized as a magnified, non-natural man, among races which possess no theological school. We do not say that the arrangement of Anu, Ea, and En-lil into a triad is not a bit of learned speculation, meaning that it is a bit of learned speculation. But to state that the early animism did not first personalize the sky and the earth and the sea is rash in the extreme. But there are two serpents. One is the heavenly ocean, the other is connected to totemism, which means the animalistic nature of that god. So one is the heavenly ocean, and the other is the venomous viper. A merely superficial acquaintance with the nature of animism and the sky. When Deucalion and Pyrrha, in the Greek myth, ask the gods how they might best replenish the earth with the human race, they were instructed to cast the bones of their mother behind them, and these bones they interpreted as stones and rocks, and acted accordingly. So would primitive man all over the world have interpreted this advice, for universally he believes that the very soil he walks upon to be the great mother which produced his ancestors, out of whose dust and clay they were formed, who still nourishes and preserves them. One thing these writers do not want to entertain: at one time there was a similar civilization to our own, but there is work to be done here at Ancient Mystery. The path of the missionaries is actually almost identical to the path of Votan. This may be a repeated cycle. Once the floods come, they start again. Jastrow proceeds to state that Anu was originally the personification of some definite power of nature, and everything points to this power having been the sun in the heavens. Starting from this point of view, we quite understand how the great illuminer of heaven should have been identified with the heavens. Just as En-lil became, in these systems, the designation of the earth and the region above the earth viewed as a whole, in an artificially devised theological system. The very fact that in the earliest times Anu was identified with the expanse of the sky itself, and that the symbol used to denote him meant for heaven, is against this supposition. Again, the theory suffers of lack of analogy. In what other mythology is there to be found a sky god who at one time possessed a solar significance? The converse might be the case. Converse meaning to turn a solar god into a sky god. This would be disguising the sun god, wouldn't it? Because the sun god is a bloody problem. Some sky gods attained their solar connection, said to be because their rule was over the entire expanse of the heavens, just as they have attained the power of lightning and the wind. But we are at a loss to recall any deity originally of distinctive solar attributes who later took the position of a sky god. Anu was regarded as the head of the triad and the father of En-lil. We are told that the goddess Aruru first shaped man in the image of Anu, who must thus have attained an anthropomorphic condition. He appears to have been regarded as the conqueror of the primeval chaos. His consort was Anatu, probably a later feminine form of himself. Come and see. Now if Anu is Anat, and Anu is part of a trinity, Anu, En-lil and Enki are now delighting in their virgin aspects, Anat, Lamashtu, and Lilith, and they all fall from Abzu. Keep your eye on the ball. The real druids are gone, but not forgotten. I will draw all of the information for preservation of humanity from the materials at hand and untwine the serpent. I will take the good and leave the rest. Druid also means to draw, and that is exactly what I do here at Ancient Mystery. My name means the Druid Anointed One. If the shoe fits, bloody wear it. I suggest learning the basics of the constellations, then we should all go camping where the stars will light up the heavens. The entity, whatever it is merely attributed with the divine spark. This dark figure may be used to keep us away from connecting to it. I can logically separate the entity from mankind. The divine spark, the God particle, may actually be the center of genetic memory which is embedded into our bloodline, and genetic trauma is actually a fact, a survival tool which is essential in the animal kingdom. The symbols of the stars would be the same as those our ancestors looked upon, meaning that possibly, if we were on the same level, the wave form or frequency of thinking, we may be able to trigger that divine spark and access our genetic memory. I believe this is one of the reasons the Druids learned the constellations. In modern times, it would be a subtle form of telepathy, a knowing, intuition, or interpretations. I do also believe that this can be amplified, and if so, it can be reduced depending on the frequency of the environment. This may be why hermits live in caves, or mounds, or the granite megalith. It may block the magnetic frequency, similar to an isolation chamber. If you think about it, if pyramids were colleges, and my theory has any grounds, then telepathy would be possible within the pyramids. I think the most important thing is to follow your own path, believe inside of you, and trust in yourselves. Because there is only one opinion that truly matters, and that is your own. It is your religion, it is your faith, it is your world. Survival and preservation was the way of the Druids. There is no glory in war, only in defense. This way of life had to end for the Empire to take foot. We have much to learn, and somehow I know exactly how to do it. For this I thank and praise my ancestors. It has nothing to do with the entity. Let me finish on process. Every process begins with thought. So if I were to make myself a god, I would be like water, and like water, thought is the beginning of everything. Please hit that notification bell to ensure that you are notified of each upload. Share, like, comment and subscribe to support the channel for more ancient mystery.